No matter which side you sit, it's pretty hard to deny. This has been an ugly week. An unprecedented amount of pointless anger and bile coursing through the rugby community hit ahead as South Africa and the British and Irish Lions met for a test match that felt like what would happen if you 50-50 mixed a Pro Dut and a World Cup final. It was, should we say, a heated game. AWJ here shows solidarity to shirt sponsors Vodafone by starting a fight with EE. Tom Curry shows incredible bravery to pick on a child in a hat. And Villy LaRue and Stuart Hogg had the world's first fullback fight, giving me hope of one day seeing the evening of second row Trivial Pursuits or a scrum half darts night. If last week's game was one for the purists, this was one for the South Africans. The Springboks dismantling the Lions in their typically dry manner, flipping things from an even first half contest to a game it was impossible for the Lions to win in a sublime but unsubtle second half performance. A tight game with lots of forward base antics and plenty of kicking of both the ball and Cheslin Colby. So, with 1 week to go and a focus solely on the rugby rather than the mind-numbingly dull and annoying refereeing chat, how did the Springboks level a series to take things to a decider for the first time since 1910? Much like year 8 for me, this Springbok win was a 50-50 combination of bullying and homework. It's clearly been a very busy week for the South African video team. Whilst Rassie kept piss worldwide on a hot boil by telling Twitter Warren Gatland shat on Sia Khaleesi's birthday cake, and then Nick Berry told him it was chocolate, the rest of his team were very clearly very hard at work. This tour, Gatland has been very eager to give the Springboks absolutely no tape to work with, nothing they could analyse. The Lions spent the tour games playing a style that could legally be considered rugby, but was so simple the Boks couldn't get any real idea of how they're going to attack or defend. But for the first test, the Lions had no choice but to show most of their hand, and this gave the Springboks something to dismantle right from the first second of the match. Every part of the Lions game was scrutinised by South Africa, ready to rip them apart for profit. Here, game 1, South Africa load their forwards on the right, and look how the Lions align for the kickoff. Because they know it would be counterintuitive to kick this way, Anthony Watson is given 750 square metres of ground to cover, resources all spent elsewhere. For the kickoff on Saturday, however, the Boks put 7 or 8 forwards once again on the right, and so the Lions set as they did in Test 1. But the Boks had done their analysis on that first touch and know how light the left is. Pollard puts it just over Watson's shoulder, making it difficult to backtrack from a Pimpy chasing hard. The Lions are unable to take it cleanly. Curry does regather, but we're only 7 seconds into the game and the Boks have already got their disruption on. The Lions starting as they ultimately went on, kind of struggling to keep up with what the Springboks are doing. The second kick-off, the Lions do adapt. Hogg and Harris coming closer to help cover the space, so Pollard places it precisely between these three, creating a kind of confusion that allows Mpimpi to reclaim the ball. This set a tone for the full Bok kicking game. Last week we saw the Springboks kicking to contain the Lions, or disorganise their defence. This week South Africa reverted back to their World Cup tactics, kicking to control momentum instead of territory or possession. They hoof it while still going forward, rather than once they run out of obvious ideas or things to do, meaning the opposition in turn are always going backwards. They get no let up. The most obvious example is the box kicks, more hung than Rassie himself. Because people keep asking, right, I'm just going to do this. Box kicks are important because they get you the cleanest possible chase. A bomb like this from 10 only allows a man or two behind the kicker to follow up properly, and they have to come from further away. The 10 has to stand deeper so he isn't being charged down. A box kick, on the other hand, only the players in the ruck are offside, and you're doing it right from the gain line, meaning you don't need to run these 10 metres in order to go forward. The vogue in Europe at the minute is sending spare players up to anticipate a tap back to regather the ball on their side, but the Springboks have no time for that kind of shit, and once the winger makes the tackle, they send everyone into the breakdown, knowing they're only against the backfield cover at the ruck. This means even if the Lions regather, and on Saturday that was a big if, they're on the back foot. And it's not always aerial. Lukhanyo Am, who's in serious danger of joining the George 415 of underrated players I'll hype up every single week, showcased the tactic in microform a couple of times. This is superb. It isn't an attacking kick, it's a pressure kick. It's careering away from Bigger, but not veering close enough to the touchline that he can leave it be. And it never sits up. The bounce is so low, he has to stop to take it. It's a struggle to do so, and Mpimpi can smash him. Bigger does very well not to go into touch, and if the winger was slightly sharper on the breakdown laws, we might have seen a turnover to boot. Surrendering the ball here doesn't matter to South Africa. The Lions are actually under more more pressure now they have it than they were a few minutes earlier just soaking up tackle after tackle. It's that screaming discomfort and sheer panic that the Boks are looking to install in you, in your soul. The Lions' turnaround last week came from adopting a pretty similar tactic in the second half, but this week they just got it totally wrong. Yes, they're going forward, but by calling in extra protection to this ruck, Murray slows the game down to such a degree the momentum is gone. Pollard has time to position himself, Bigger has to adjust his chase. This goes from a good tactical decision to just kicking the ball away for no reason, and all it takes is one extra notch on that caterpillar. This one isn't as bad, but Murray takes so long over it, free Springboks and drop out of line and obstruct Van der Merwe's chase before boot has hit ball. After such an effective turn last week, this was all very bizarre. The Lions kicked like they were told the tactics in 2017 on the last tour, and they're struggling now to remember them. The broad strokes were there, but they'd forgotten the details that actually made it work. The passage immediately before Cheslin Kolbe's yellow card tells the story in itself. Last week, the Lions made every kick contestable, and it won them the game. Even exiting from their own 22, it was all about the chase, never the territory. Yet here, Murray just thunder twats it low into the opposition half, giving Pollard loads of time with the ball to hang a kick near the touchline. Not only is this kick contestable, if Kolbe doesn't get this wrong, Murray's probably being put into touch and South Africa reclaiming the ball 30 metres downfield. The Lions kicking was about when, the Springbok kicking was also about how. However, some of the British and Irish boot-based blairdness was beyond their control. Last week, the Lions consistently targeted Quagga Smith, the likes of Tom Curry and Duan van der Merwe acting like an all-black around a woman, hitting them as hard as they could, then waiting to be rewarded for it. But unlike the All Blacks, Quagga's coaches considered this unacceptable and actually did something about it. Not only did they bring in the bigger Jasper Wiese at 8, they afforded him a protection Smith did not receive. This kick-off was aimed at Wiese, but caught by Moster in a lifting pod, meaning the Lions can't compete or smash as they'd hoped. He's in the air. But if we rewind, the three in that pod start in very different positions, creating a kind of optical illusion. Wiese looks isolated, but the pod assembles in front of him once the kick is made and prevents the Lions targeting him. Or here, watch Khaleesi carefully. He drops out of line early, and then this is a deliberate blocking line, but he never looks at a line, he never looks backwards, only at Wiese, lining himself up to protect him, helping South Africa shield the ball. On the other end, the Lions dropped more balls than Mr. Bean announcing the lottery winners, yet I think the blame is kind of going to the wrong places. Yes, Hogg, Watson and Van der Merwe can all do better. They're all international players and they played below their very high standards. But keep an eye on Conor Murray. Part of the Nine's job in this Lions system is to drop back early and just try to subtly block the Springboks trying to get to the catcher. Yet time after time, Murray overchased and actively got in the way of the player going up for the ball. Sometimes forced them to adjust their eye line, sometimes plonking himself in the space where they'd want to land, and sometimes competing against them. And it led to an infinite increase in knock-ons. Contrast that to how subtly the Springboks shield their back three, or even last week, how Ali Price would stop still and just not get in the way, giving the chaser time and space. I don't mean to blame Murray, who played broadly very well, and it wasn't only him. The Lions blocked Bok chasers really poorly, and it gave South Africa a real edge in the air. And that kicking battle, that kicking game, also led to the Springboks' 2 tries. Now, I don't want to repeat myself for anyone who hasn't watched all my videos on this tour, but neither do I want to sound smug because I highlighted the chinks in the Lions' armour that led to both tries 10 days before the first test. Since Rajiv Asmus took over, the Springboks have not done attacking kicks. We've seen pressure kicks in 22 come in this series, but this, by Spion Kosi on his first cap and Rajiv Asmus' second game in charge, remained the only attacking stab we'd seen by South Africa in 3.5 years at half-time on Saturday. As such, the Lions gambled on a lighter backfield in the 22, figuring nothing of the sort was going to happen, none of it was going to come. They did, however, see this maul coming, but that doesn't make it any less effective. The Boks pull a similar trick to the Lions for Cowan Dickey's try last week, engaging as many forwards as possible, then twisting the tail off into a new maul. Curry reads it and steps in, but Marks smartly, seamlessly smuggles himself back into the original maul and keeps it going. This gets the Boks up to the 5-metre line. Now, as I highlighted this in the warm-up game, Hogg at fullback defends out wide, and it leaves a huge dead space around the poles to dink into, and Faf weighs it perfectly. The Lions' defence still reloading, watching for runners. A kick like this is the last thing on their minds. They're not considering this. They're not considering this at all. It's brilliantly identified by the Bok coaches, spotted by de Klerk, and then read and finished by Lekanyuam. But beyond the little dinks, we saw a shift in Springbok attack, not just from the World Cup, but from last weekend as they adopted the sport's new vogue, the 1-3-2-2 pattern. I've talked about this at length this tour in other videos, but it's the tactic that Japan pioneered at the World Cup to generate go forward with a smaller pack, but the Springboks instead are using it to get a backline going from behind a bigger pack. The tactic for the likes of Japan, Scotland and Wales is about making your forward carries more dynamic and hard to predict, but South Africa's pack is big enough they don't need any help getting over the gain line, don't patronise them, so instead they use it to speed up the ball they were generating anyway. Mostert positioned perfectly to secure that lump of rubber the split second the tackle was complete. The Lions defence is still folding around the other side and it buys Pollard time to get it in the air without dropping into the pocket. The Lions are all up to put pressure on, none of them having dropped back to support Hogg. Leroux gets the tap back and Diolande regathers. South Africa line then into these three groups in midfield. The Lions are only eyeing up the carriers. Pollard and Leroux can slot in behind as distributors. The new pattern decoy as Khaleesi separates from partner Mbonambi and subtly creates an overlap. He carries, the Lions commit heavily to the ruck, but de Klerk plays it away fast. Anyway, South Africa changed the point of focus in a way we've seen unlike anything they've done in major tournaments lately, and the Lions aren't ready for it. However, this try all comes from the sheer laziness of one Lion. You can hear Dan Bigger on the ref mic screaming at Courtney Laws, but Laws figures Bigger is just talking about the online feminist magazine and he can't be doing any of that woke shit, so ignores him. Bigger continues screaming and actually slapping him on the arse, but Laws just lazily looks at the ruck, covering space Cowan Dickey already has marked. Now, okay, if we look at this, the Lions defence is a line like this. If Laws folds around the corner, as Bigger asks him, each Lions defender can then space out that little bit more, meaning Conan can take position about here and Watson can properly defend the cross kick. As it is, this time Pollard does have blockers in the way and it gives him the time he needs to lace it up outside Watson and Hogg from a Pimpy to score. I play casual touch rugby once a week, right? We don't count the score, yet Courtney Laws' laziness would be poor at that level. At Lions test level, it's kind of unbelievable. My theory pre-tour was that the Lions would rely heavily on first and second phase plays, on set moves, hoping to open the Springboks up whilst their forwards were tied in, and we saw that start to happen this week after simply capitalising on a superior kicking game in test 1. The Lions ran variants of this move in either game against the Sharks, but it's really interesting to see how ineffective it is. Each player starts deep and time their runs late, but because the two final receivers need to be out wide early for it to be effective, the Boks easily read where it's going, the only issue being how it's getting there and it's snuffed out simply. And Henshaw almost try is nice. Henshaw has been sniffing on the ruck as Bigger sets for something else. Mapimpi spots him, calls it, South Africa start to watch Bigger, then Henshaw says one word to Murray as he slots back into position. Murray looks up, sees the space his centre has spotted, and it almost comes up perfectly, but for a vital intervention by Khaleesi, who had a pretty spectacular game. For me, he narrowly beat Franco Mostert, a man who combines 1980s serial killer and 2010s YouTuber into one very distinctive look, to be my personal man of the match. The Lions' attack was really blunt, and whilst playing such a good defence didn't help, parts of this were on the decision to take a few calculated risks. Faf de Klerk, right, is maybe the only shit in world rugby bigger than the one Warren Gatlin took on that birthday cake, and I mean that as a compliment. He's so annoying to play against. I wonder whether any of his opposite numbers have ever left their wives because he put them off blonde hair for life. And defensively, Faf's part in the plan is basically just ruin their day. He starts in the backfield but flies up. The idea is he can rush in and act as an extra, almost invisible defender that they can't see coming, just ending attacks with fluffball kamikaze shit like this. Nobody able to see him coming because he's coming from so far behind the defensive line. This is a huge issue if the Lions want to run any complicated attacking patterns, but it's one you can solve if you can just find ways to keep de Klerk in the backfield so he isn't able to rush up, he isn't able to fly into line. So the Lions sacrifice their first 3 attacks of the game to get so deep in his head you think it's peroxide. Plugging kicks into this space, telling him, you need to watch this, we're going to do this all day, cover in behind, and it worked. Faf de Klerk did not once over 80 minutes do his trademark, fly and make you cry, sticking to the space behind, keeping an eye out just in case Bigger was tempted to thread another one through. But the problem was the Lions were then unable to capitalise on this. This is a really interesting move, right? Some deception to draw men before Conan carries, and then Bigger folds around the ruck. Alwyn Jones and Laws follow suit, just drawing eyes. Bigger then runs back around and hangs quite a nice kick for Itoje, who stayed on the wing after the line out. However, let's go back. Francois Herber spots it flashing round, and his call gives de Klerk time to get back on his feet and cover across. Now, had Faf been aggressive as ever, operating his normal role, maybe, possibly, he's eyeing up a shot on Bigger or a forward on the far side, but with him in permanent kick watch mode, he gets to Itoje moments after the ball. The attack goes nowhere. We did see some smart phase play. South Africa shook up their defensive system a touch. Jesper Wiese not trusted to play the Dwayne Vermeulen role of defensive captain. Instead, the organisation went to Frans Herbert and then Sia Khaleesi contributing a bit too. And this was something the Lions picked up on in the first 20 minutes and started targeting it. Because the wingers are such an important part of the South African system, Faf de Klerk has to fill in here while Colby's in the bin, and they use Mapimpi as the scrum off so he can cover behind, knowing how eager Bigger is on a chip kick today. So the Lions target Malherbe twice in quick succession. And soon, South Africa lose their organisation. There's nobody to shout and scream, and it opens this opportunity for Watson to flash around late. And if only he didn't have the classic "I'm a winger who hasn't touched the ball yet" brain fart, the Lions could have been looking at a try considering the support on hand. There were very few attacks of any real note for the Lions, but the issues in all of them are things you can fix or tweak inside a week. However, perhaps the biggest blot against any Lions attacking rugby was the way the Boks murdered their momentum. Not only with forward play and intelligent kicking, but with how they managed to slow the game down to a dawdle any time the Lions got in position to attack. This is right after Mapimpi's try. The Lions get pumped up to get back into the game. Jesper Wiese drops a kick off. The Lions have a scrum in the 22. Momentum swings. Lions ready, eager, ready. The best attacking opportunity of the game. They're ready, gonna attack and score, hopefully. However, let's just have a look at what happens next. The Lions set for the scrum quickly, but South Africa just don't. Mbonambi has a chat, the locks stand around, the whole pack just take their time. As the first half, lasting an hour and 12 minutes, showed, Ben O'Keefe showed no eagerness to speed the game up and let the players just go about things in their own time, just vibe and chill. And the Boks abused that. Wiese drops the ball at 45 minutes and 49 seconds. South Africa then don't set for a while. O'Keefe scarcely says a word, just waiting. And once they do, the Boks drive the scrum sideways to force a reset, then do it again here. Wait another 30 seconds before going back. Then when they do, the third time, they go to drop it before the ball is in, hoping to get a fourth reset. O'Keefe instead awards a free kick, but the damage is already done. Murray passes the ball away at 49 minutes and 33 seconds. That's 4.5 minutes of sitting around South Africa have bought. The Lions are no longer pumped up. The backs are bored. The attack is now completely unready and uninspired. Nothing comes of it. Quagga Smith goes for a risky turnover against Ping, but there was no need. The Lions were going nowhere. The impetus ripped from their souls by South Africa, slowing everything right down. The next Lions set piece in the Boks half, two separate Springbok forwards go down suddenly once the whistle is blown. We all know it takes an industrial strength digger to give Eben Etzebeth even the smallest cut on his knee, so the chances he's genuinely hurt himself walking to the ruck are quite low. In contrast, this Boks scrum in a similar position in the 22. The Lions set right away, and there's only 1 minute and 32 between the knock-on being awarded and the ball coming out, penalty given. Watching live as a Lions fan felt hopeless. Impossible to get any pace or momentum into the game. And it was as much down to these cynical little tricks as the Boks' actual defence. It's awful to watch, but so effective, so frustrating for an opposition. At this point, there's quite a long list of things Rassie Erasmus has done this series that won't make rugby any more popular, but every single one of them has helped his team to win rugby matches. Because it's been an ugly week. A week for rugby to try and forget. A week we'll have to hope sets no precedents. And a test match we hope only sets things up for the future. We now head into a decider between the British and Irish Lions and South Africa for the first time in 111 years. Hoping things this week just aren't so ugly. Thank you for watching that. I hope you enjoyed it. There's plenty more in the Lions tour all around the channel. There's going to be more next week when the third and final test finally arrives. So please keep an eye out for that. And I will see you with more stuff in the future. Thank you for supporting on the Patreon as well. That's a huge help and help me continue doing this. Anyway, as you were, thank you. Bye.